Dan Bidondi, TruthRadioShow.com. So we got a special report today, and as you all know, I'm also a Second Amendment advocate as well as a talk show host, biblical teacher, and everything else. So we're going to get into this subject today. The Department of Defense, Department of Justice, and President Donald Trump are talking about banning gun ownership for transgenders. Because the last several shooters were, actually transgender, but does this speak for every transgender? Now, as you know, I go by biblical standards, and I might not agree with a transgender, but I do support their right under the Constitution to do what they want, and that's between them and God. I'm not the judge. But however, should they be banned from owning a firearm? So we're going to get to that today, and just a quick little report we're going to talk about here. And so, again, following up here, excuse me, I'm not in my studio, so I forgot how to use the stuff at my home. So, hang on a second. Transition. Here we go. So, following the September 2025 Minneapolis shooting, reports emerged that the United States Department of Justice under the Trump administration was internally discussing the potential ban of firearm ownership for transgender individuals. And a new potential rule would sharpen criticism for both gun rights groups and the LGBTQ advocates, and no specific proposal had been advanced at this time. So regardless, you might agree with this. There's a lot of people who do agree with this, and, the stereotyping groups. And I'm going to emphasize one more time, there is millions of transgenders out there. And not all of them are bad like that. And there's white people bad like that. There's black people bad like that. There's Spanish people. There's people of all groups that commit crimes and heinous crimes and violence and everything else. So should transgenders be banned from owning a firearm? Well, when we get into the subject, this is a constitutionality subject, right? You might not agree with them. I might not agree with that way of life, but I'm not their judge. Like I said, that's between them and God. I believe in the biblical standards of things and what the Bible says. However, he did give us a constitution here in the United States of America to abide by, and that's the laws of the land, and the supreme law of the land is the Ten Commandments. So that's my stance on it. I'm a constitutionalist independent and a follower of Jesus Christ. So I'm not a Republican nor a Democrat. So I don't take any sides either way. So anyway, let's see what the Constitution has to say about this. So, like the Bible too, when you have a question, you go to the Bible, right? Spiritual question, go to the Bible. And when it comes to constitutionality, we go to the Constitution. Now, we got the talking heads out there. I'm a lawyer. I'm a professor at Harvard or whatever, and more degrees. And all. We don't need any of that, guys. The Constitution is clear as day. You don't need a lawyer to interpret the Constitution. And this is plain text, okay? The Constitution says a well-regulated militia, which is not, we're going to declare this, what this is. It's not the National Guard, like you've been told. But the well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And I don't know what people don't understand. Shall not be infringed, plain and simple. And I'm going to go further, yeah? So let's go to what James Madison wrote about this. So James Madison was the author of the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is amendments 1 through 10, not 11 and up. 1 through 10 is the Bill of Rights, where the Bill of Rights are set in stone, literally, and the government cannot touch it. Congress can't touch it with a 10-foot pole, nor the all three branches of government, if they get together and say, we're going to dissolve one of these rights, they can't do that. These rights are for the people, by the people, plain and simple. So James Madison defined every little nook and cranny of the Second Amendment. You have to. When you go to legislation, you have to, when you create a law, whatever, you have to define every piece of legislation. So when he proposed this in 1789, it was, I think it was September 1789, then ratified in September of 1791. So it goes, like we showed, a well-regulated militia. What is a well-regulated militia? So it's a National Guard, and no, it's nothing to do with the military or police or National Guard. A militia, when properly formed, are in fact the people themselves, whose ability to act both in personal and common defense must be well maintained. This here, guys, the core of the Second Amendment, goes off the Declaration of Independence, the second paragraph, where it says, when we have a tyrannical government, whatever the case, we have the right and the duty and responsibility to abolish such government and provide new gods for our future. This is the teeth of it. This gives you the full authority to do that if our government becomes tyrannical. And that's the number one reason for the Second Amendment. So the government gets out of hand, they become tyrannical, we kick their asses. Plain and simple. We give them one, then we kick their asses. And excuse the language, but that's exactly what it is. And being necessary to the security of a free state, that means to be secure in your liberty, state of being free, and the governance of a free people, the state securing the rights of a free people. Plain and simple. And the right of the people. The whole of the people, an individual right independent of government. Government does not give you these rights, guys. As James Madison simply put it, these are God-given inalienable rights, endowed to us by our Creator. Your government, your president, your congressman has nothing to do with this. And that's why they've been trying to take these guns for over 100 years now. Because they know when you take the guns away, you have unarmed citizenry. Yeah, tyrannical governments rise up after that. And it goes on to say to keep and bear arms. So does it say, everything but an AR-15, a military style is not constitutional? Well, yes, it is, because every gun was a military style gun back then. To keep and bear arms, to own and carry arms of whatever type necessary. So if it's AR-15, it's AK-47, yeah, so it will be. The government does not get to, or the courts do not get to have a right to pick and choose what you can and can't own. If you want to own 100 drum magazine, your state says you can't, you tell the state to go pound sand. You own what you want, when you want, plain and simple. You don't have to disclose anything to anybody. To only carry arms of whatever type necessary to effectively provide for personal defense and defense against tyranny. That's the number one reason for the Second Amendment. So people say, well, why do you need AR-15, Dan? Why do you need a 20 or 30 round magazine? Well, because I want them. And as long as the government's got it, as long as tyrants got it, as long as criminals got one, we need one. Plain and simple. And this has a lot to do with what we're talking about here. And now it says, shall not be infringed. This is an important part of this conversation today. So should transgenders be allowed to own guns? So, shall not be infringed. It shall not be limited, regulated, federally, excessively taxed, or encroached upon in any manner. Plain and simple. So what part of that people don't understand, I have no idea. So, yes, like I said, people of all walks of life, groups, nationalities, all commit violence, right? However, it is unconstitutional to ban guns from a transgender. You might not agree with them, like I said, but you know what? It is their right to defend themselves. I don't care if you're gay, trans, straight, bi, whatever you want to call yourself, right? As an American citizen, if you are a law-abiding citizen, you have a right to defend yourself and keep and bear arms. That's the law of the land. We don't need no quirky interpretation from the talking heads in the media or the so-called scholars and all this other stuff. You don't need that. It's clear as day. This is why it's been like this for over 200 years. That the American people are allowed to own a firearm and protect themselves. And if you look in history, right, why didn't Japan invade us? This quickly gets forgotten about, right? Because during World War II, they bombed us with Pearl Harbor, but they were talking about a land invasion. So they didn't do this land invasion because, simply put, their experts told them, no, don't do that because it'll be suicide. Behind every blade of grass is an American with a gun. Yeah, an American citizen with a gun. And it's 10 times more than that now. You know what I mean? So they fear us owning firearms. And so here's the thing. I'm going to leave it this, right? Here's the dangers. Right now, the dangers of banning firearms for transgenders. So people don't realize this. They're all hyped up, all emotional because of all the stuff that's going on and everything else. And most of this stuff is done to fit narratives to push gun control. That's what it's about. So this would have happened, right? So we'll just say President Trump says, all right, we declare guns banned, which is unconstitutional. He can't do that. We declare guns banned from transgenders, right? Mental illness, whatever. So that's a clause they use, mental illness. Obama tried to do this. Remember that? Against the Tea Parties, the right-wing conservatives, the Oath Keepers and all that, call them like lunatics. My Senator Sheldon Whitehouse called us that too. Birthers, people don't believe Obama was born in the United States, stuff like that. So here's the danger. So if you all approve this and this goes forward, right, what is this going to do? This is going to open the floodgates up because God forbid, all right, that Gavin Newsom or some lunatic like him, some communist lunatic like him becomes president. You know what that's going to do? That's going to put it's called a loophole, a backdoor. So now the president will have a right to declare who he thinks insane or mentally unfit to own a firearm. See where this is going now? You can probably already understand what I'm trying to get to now, right? So now Gavin Newsom gets in. He says, you know what? I declare all patriots, which is most percentage of the country, all patriots are mentally insane and they should not own firearms. Then the next president gets in, just God forbid, say, I think black people are mentally insane, they should own guns. Then, or they could say white people, or Spanish people. You get the point. So what the proceedings is going to come out of this is hell. So you might think, oh, this is cool, we can stop transgenders from owning guns. They have a right to protect themselves. Not all transgenders are bad. You know what I mean? We don't agree with their way of life, but they still have a right. They're American citizens. Most of them do abide by the law. And they have a right just as much as me and you to defend themselves with a firearm. So anybody who agrees with that, you got to think constitutionality. You got to get this political party nonsense, this red versus blue bull crap out of your head. You know what I mean? We're not Republicans. We're not Democrats. We're Americans. You know what I mean? That's what should come first. And we're God's people. So that's what you should put in mind. So everybody has a right to defend themselves, regardless if you agree with them or not. And if you don't, if you think this is a good idea, you are a hypocrite. You are everything what the Founding Fathers stood against. You know what I mean? So you can't say, well, a certain class of people, we got to ban firearms. You can't do that. Because, again, this is going to massively open the floodgates. So just say, even President Trump, just say he gets another term. Or the next one, whoever. Or him, he could change his mind. All right, well, nobody mentally unfit could own a gun now, right? Oh, wow, that's going to go a long ways. Because just say he gets pissed off at the Tea Party or something. Oh, well, I don't think they're around anymore. But just say the Oath Keepers as well. He goes, oh, they're not all mentally fit, so you can't own a gun. And again, like I said, I shouldn't have to repeat myself, but just say Gavin Newsom gets in, and he darn well he's going to reverse that order. And he's going to use that loophole to attack the Second Amendment, to say, you patriots out there who think transgenders are bad, you're a hate group, you're mentally unfit, and guess what? You can't own a gun no more. And people say, oh, what happened? What happened? Well, because you gave President Trump this authority, which is unconstitutional to do so. So I don't care who you are, okay? And I'm not throwing Trump under the bus or anybody else. I'm just saying this is the most unconstitutional stupidity that anybody could even agree with. And you need to, here's the thing, when you make these decisions, you can't make decisions off your raw emotions. You need to make the decisions from a sound mind. That's what it teaches in the Bible, you know what I mean? We can't use a carnal mind, we need to use a spiritual mind. And so in this case here, the Second Amendment, we need to go by what the Constitution says. And regardless what happens and all this stuff, we need to go by, excuse me, I got allergies today. It's like change of season. So it is September 14th, September 14th of 2025. So, and this is recent news, and they're talking about this, and I don't think they're going to do it. I think they should just talk, but still, they'll put things like that on the table to see how people react to it. And if they do get a large support of people saying yes, they're going to push it. They're going to push it. And because everybody's like, yeah, we should do this, but what they're doing is they're creating their own demise, because again, and for the third time now, Gavin Newsom gets his president next year, or Kamala Harris, whatever the case, right? Next year, I'm saying next election, I'm sorry, God forbid. They will say, all right, we're going to use that mentally ill clause that you can't own a firearm. Guess what? You patriots, you Tea Parties, you Oath Keepers, you Hell's Angels, whoever, you know what I mean? Oh, you returning vets, you're mentally unstable, you can't own a gun, right? That's what they'll do. And they'll get doctors to back them. They'll get all the so-called experts to back them. And guess what? They go to your Second Amendment. And this induces more power to the red flag law. That's unconstitutional as well. So think twice before you support this. Seriously. Let your emotions go and think what is going to happen if somebody got this kind of power to do this. And the president, I don't care if it's good or bad, no president deserves that amount of power to be able to regulate the Second Amendment. Again, shall not be infringed, as clear as day. Plain and simple. And if we didn't have these gun regulations, we wouldn't have these mass shootings, because all those people would be there to defend themselves. So just think about that for a minute, and you know what? Plain and simple. Shall not be infringed. That's it. So it's Dan Bidondi for TruthRadioShow.com. God bless, shalom, and you are the resistance.